2025 is barely 2 weeks old, and already some unbelievable new African football stories are loading to be told. The group stages of the CAF Champions League dazzled and sparkled like the fireworks that lit up the New Year's Eve night sky. Match day 4 of the group stages produced a mixed bag of results as Orlando Pirates continued their winning start while Mamelodi Sundowns and our athlete tasted defeat for the very first time. My name is Adelani Folashayo Ogurinade, and you're currently watching Fut-Afrique, the show known for reflecting an African way of life while echoing the unity despite the diversity amongst us. Now, when you combine all these with our shared passion for the beautiful game, then you, my friend, are in for an exciting time. Unga indawo sochika manje. Welcome back to the Fut-Afrique show, where the soul of African football comes alive. Now, let me ask you a question. How good is your African football knowledge? You get a chance to test yourself with our trivia question today. Which country won the last edition of the CAF African Nations Championship? The CHAN, basically. We're going to have a conversation about the CHAN later on in the show, so you might get a hint of what the answer is. But before then, I have breaking stories for you. 2, actually. The first one is that Brian Mofokeng graces us with his presence today, right here on Fut-Afrique. And then the second one, we'll get into that. Let's first welcome Brian to the show. Brian, you can't hate on that introduction in 2025.
No.
It was a special one.
I'm actually shocked. You get better. Last week it was something else. So this week you've moved on. So the only thing you need to bring is a jollof into studio. Then we are done. We have everything sorted.
All right, let's get into the second breaking story, because it seems like the NFF have finally decided to honor their New Year's resolution and get a coach for the Super Eagles.
You know what's worrying about this, Adi? I have to say, in the last year, Nigeria now getting their 3rd coach.
Wow.
That's what worries me about this whole story. So just, to mention the new coach, Eric Sekou Shell, he's the man in charge, man born to Malian and French parents. He played football for Mali, but he spent his football mostly playing football in France before eventually becoming a coach. He was that man. I think there's still the biggest meme that goes around. He was in charge of Mali at the recent AFCON.
At the quarterfinals, the Ivory Coast.
Yes. Led 1-0. And right to the stroke of full-time, Ivory Coast scored an equalizer. 1-1 the score was. And when they scored the second goal, that man was there. He needed water. Because
the water being poured over his head.
It was the biggest headline. I remember I covered that game, and I thought to myself, he probably fainted because they just had water over him. He kept on trying. It was like the funniest thing ever.
Yes. He actually came out to explain that viral clip.
Yeah.
That it was because his blood pressure was going to scary heights. And I think working with the NFF, he's going to need a whole lot more water, a whole bucket poured on his head, working with the NFF. But what does he bring to the Super Eagles?
Listen, if you look at the fact that, Mali were able to defeat the Super Eagles in the first time in 50 years, that was a big feat, I think, from a Nigerian point of view. You look at the guy who's going to come in. And also, it's history from a Nigerian point of view. Nigeria have never employed a coach that is from Africa, but from Nigeria. All the coaches we've employed have always been outside of Nigeria or Nigerian. For the first time, they've gone for a coach from the continent who is not Nigerian. So that's a huge feat from a Nigerian point of view. So history is being made by him. He's 47 years of age. He was born in Cote d'Ivoire, but he grew up in France most of his life. If you look at the way Mali played, I still remember Mali played in the same group with South Africa in the Cote d'Ivoire tournament.
Yes.
Won the opening game against South Africa, drew their second game, and then drew their third game. Got into the last 16, then found himself in the quarterfinals where they eventually lost that match. But he got sacked after Madagascar in the World Cup qualifiers.
But he did a good job with Mali. His team seemed to score goals.
They look good, but I just think for me it was a game management, because in that game against Cote d'Ivoire in particular, after scoring they went back to defend. you know? But I mean, I don't know. At the moment, I believe that any coach can do well with the Super Eagles, depending on how things work out to the NFF. Because that, for me, has always been the biggest problem. I know coaches who have left are still not paid.
Yes.
You know, how are they going to handle this? That's, for me, is going to be the key one.
Yes, and it seems like big players don't faze him. I mean, Yves Bissouma, you saw the way he treated Yves Bissouma in the last Nations Cup.
Yeah.
I have the minutes here. He played 15 minutes against South Africa, 6 minutes against Tunisia, and only came on in the 90th minute against Cote d'Ivoire. And he's the biggest player there in the Malian national team.
But if he's not broken, why fix it?
Yes.
Because there's getting results without him on the field of play. And I think sometimes, you know, you need to win a dressing room as a coach.
Yes.
That's why some coaches fail. Because
and I feel there are bigger personalities in the Super Eagles camp. So he's going to have to deal with that.
The last coach had to deal with Victor Osimhen when he did not select him, bring him in and having to play.
And now imagine Ademola Lookman now winning that, the ego.
But Lookman looks humble.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know, maybe it's deceiving.
You'll see. And one thing again that I noticed from him is that the young players will succeed. He discovered Kamori Doumbia, who has 10 goals and 4 assists for Mali so far.
Any coach that goes to the young players, I love, because I believe the game can only get better going forward.
All right, well, let's switch our attention now to the third breaking story I have. I think I said 2. The first one was Brian joining us.
Mine shouldn't be breaking story, unless you just added me just for fun.
Yes.
It's okay.
Listen, the second one is the appointment of the new Super Eagles coach. And then the third one is CHAN actually increasing their prize money without giving out the answer to our trivia question, when the team that won the last CHAN walked away with $2 million US. And now it's about to go up to
3.5
by 75%.
That's a lot.
Okay, what's CAF trying to achieve by doing this?
You know, there are two things I look at when I talk about CHAN. First of all, I look at the fact that a lot of teams eventually pulled out of CHAN qualifiers. If you look at now, we have 54 countries in the continent. Only 40 of those participated in the qualifiers now for this CHAN tournament. You've seen Tunisia pulling out, Libya pulling out, South Africa said they're not interested. A lot of countries have stayed out of this CHAN because CHAN is purely for locally based players. Yes. And teams are saying, you know what, you've got such congested seasons because of the Club World Cup we need to cater for going forward. The AFCON is coming up. We also have the World Cup qualifiers coming up. So people are saying, you know what, we'd rather just keep minimum the amount of games that our players play so they can keep them fit and be able to have coaches that are happier going forward. That's number one. For me, that's a problem. Because the CHAN tournament is meant purely to give those players who are locally based a chance to play for the national team and give them the same exposure that those that are playing in Europe and Americas are given when they play at that level. So if you don't have players playing a CHAN tournament, who's going to spot them? Who's going to be able to do certain things? Yes. Hence the statement from the president of CAF saying, you know, CHAN tournament is very, very huge competition for the developmental and the growth of African-based players. So we need to be having more of this. And we can tell stories. I mean, Raheem was a top scorer for the side of Morocco when they won the tournament.
Brian, I'm sorry to have to cut you there. You know, we're going to come back after the break. We're going to have to blow the whistle on the first half. Unfortunately, we couldn't give him 2 extra minutes in this half. He'll be back in the second half after our team talk. Stay tuned.